Okay. Now we're in. Head on a swivel. We have no security in this meeting right now.
That would have sucked if we did this whole thing and we didn't record it. Sorry, Ruth. We fucked up.
Are you busy? You want to come back? History tells us that our second episodes suck, but we can try this again.
Yeah, can you just answer these questions you just did? But can you go into further detail, please?
And actually, I'm a little drunk now, so I'm just going to email you the questions. If you could just read them to on the camera and then answer them, that'd be great. No, we hit record, thankfully. Good call, Bill. Freaking Zoom, man.
Someone's got to pay attention.
Someone's got to lead this posse. Bill, you remember Little League?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Ray, never mind.
I never played Little League.
No, you didn't.
You're old, man. I mean, you and I played on a couple teams together. I know especially when we hit like 12 or 13. I remember playing senior Babe Ruth with you, and then your dad was on the team. I remember all those guys from Deerfield were on there too. We had a pretty decent team.
Bill, do you remember this lady making during the Great Depression making this Little League team?
Jesus, how many times? Never mind. Because I'd be fucking dead.
It was only in the greater Cleveland area, Ray.
I didn't know if a Raven came over to Queens Landing.
Do you think I'd go to that shithole of a city? No.
I enjoyed Cleveland. I've been to Cleveland.
I've been to Cleveland once.
I enjoyed it.
The Holiday Inn there was the nicest Holiday Inn I've ever stayed in. All hardwood floors, and it was right over a Progressive Field.
Cleveland rocks.
I stayed by the basketball arena where I was.
Yeah, we walked over. I had a steak dinner right outside
the
arena. The Q.
I believe there was a Winking Lizard was the bar that me and my dad kept going to, and that's where I had my first taste of Christmas ale.
I think I had a steak dinner in their place because it's right by the arena.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. Good Cleveland memories, guys. In 1938, Bill, true or false, you were riding the rails of the Hobo Railroad.
I plead the fifth.
1, 2, 3, 4. I plead the fifth.
Story time. Hello.
Hello. Yep, we can hear you. Do you hear us?
I can hear you.
Perfect.
Welcome.
You guys sound fine.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. I think there might be a slight delay, which welcome to the Simple Mind Sports Show. If there is a delay, it's going to completely derail us. We are not smart enough to deal with that, but
Oh, I certainly am not.
Oh, this is gonna be perfect then.
You're an author. We're not authors, so you're definitely
We're Simple
smarter
Minds
than...
for a reason.
Ray, I release several blogs a day. None of them are good.
Sorry, I apologize.
Ruth, thanks for joining us. Today with us is Ruth Morhard, the author of Mrs. Morhard and the Boys, the real story of the rise of the Little League. I got to say, this one is near and dear to our hearts. You're obviously on a sports podcast. 2 out of the 3 of us had enough gumption and smarts to play baseball as a kid. And we loved the sport. We loved our time in Little League. And we've really enjoyed getting to know the story and getting to kind of the finer details of the story. So thanks so much for joining us. We're excited to learn some more tonight.
My pleasure.
So why don't you actually, I think it'd be great or just the best if you could just give us your, I guess your story, or just tell us about your experience of learning about the story of your mother-in-law and her experience with starting, Little League essentially. And, we have a lot of questions for you, but we'd love to just hear the background.
Well, I moved from Connecticut to Cleveland many years ago, and I met my current husband. And I had met his mother just a couple of times, and she passed away. And we were looking through, we were, cleaning out her house after she passed, and I spied this humongous can of film, and it said "Bringing Up Baseball" on the side. Well, obviously I was curious, so I asked him. I said, "What's that about?" And he said, "Well," he said, "that's about my mother. She started the Little League." And I'm thinking, sure, she did. Anyway, I was curious. So we rented a 60 millimeter projector and we watched the film, and I was absolutely stunned because there she was. And in one scene, she was looking down on boys playing in their backyard. And the next scene, she was on a real baseball diamond with kids who looked like, I mean, they almost looked like pros. They were so good.
Yeah.
And there were people in the stands, women wearing dresses and hats and men wearing suits. And anyway, it was quite amazing. So I had the idea to maybe write an article about it when I had time. But there were kids and there were work and stuff like that. And I'm
Sure.
not the kind of person that gets up at 2 a.m. to write and then go to work.
Right.
So for a long time, it took me a long time to sit down to do it. And the more I looked into the story, the more interested I got. And it went from an article to maybe there's a book here, because this is a woman who not only started the baseball leagues, but she had an incredible life.
Right.
I mean, she was one of 17 children. Worked on a farm. She was, she just was worked to death on the farm, and finally left at age 12. And imagine back in the early 1900s, a girl age 12 on her own, and the things that she encountered, the obstacles she encountered were incredible. But she would never go back to the farm.
Yeah.
No matter what happened, she wasn't going to go back to the farm. And then, probably in desperation, she married first a man who was a big promoter. He unfortunately had wives in just about every city where he went to promote things.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And, you didn't get divorced in those days, but he ended up abandoning her. And so she did get a divorce and was in really, really pretty bad shape at that point in time. But she was always a very feisty lady. She got married again to another very charming guy who also ended up. Well, he was kind of a womanizer, but he was also when he was drinking, he got very violent. And so she married him, divorced him, and married him again, and divorced him for the second time, leaving. She had one child from each marriage. The youngest one was her son Albert, who was acting out, and she needed to find something to do. She was running a meat market at the time, and she had to spend all of her time at the meat market. So she didn't know, what she was going to do with Albert. And Albert was not was kind of getting in some trouble,
As boys do.
as boys do. Sometimes I wonder how boys grow up, but
They don't.
Some of us don't.
but anyway, one day she saw him sitting outside with a Cleveland Indians cap on his head and swatting at a tennis ball that he had absconded with from his sister, with a stick that he had found at a construction site. And of course, well, everybody, I mean, in those days, I mean, baseball was king. Everybody loved baseball. And they were big Indians fans. So kind of a light bulb went off in her head, and she marched the next day up to the mayor's office, and she said, is there a baseball team for young kids? Because I think my son, could really benefit from one. Well, the mayor didn't know of any, but he said that they could use the town hall field or there was a field in back of the town hall. And he said that they could use the field. So she got some of the neighborhood kids, some of his friends, and they went down and they started using the field, and they started having games. Well, the field wasn't exactly ideal. The balls were running in the street. There wasn't much room for an outfield. And she was the kind of woman that if it wasn't done well, she wasn't going to do it at all. So she was going to find him a field no matter what she had to do.
A baseball field. Now, not like a hay field, which is kind of what this seems like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she was at this point. I mean, she was desperate. She wanted to find a field, no matter what it was, where the kids could play baseball.
Yeah.
So she and Albert were he was called Junior at the time. were out to, they went to get something to eat at a place called Lenny's Chicken in the Basket, and there was a huge field next to it, next to the eatery. On the site, a man was building a small shopping center. And so she marched up to the developer and she said, I want to use this for a field for my kids, for the kids to play baseball. He, was kind of stunned that, she'd be so brazen, but he said yes.
Sure.
So she got the kids together and they were, picking up papers and stones and trying to cut the grass and make an outfield, or make a field to play baseball on. But, it was hopeless.
Yeah.
So again, she went to the mayor and got the mayor involved. And pretty soon the city crews were on the field and they were making a baseball field for her.
That's pretty amazing.
So that's how she started. She was a lady that, wouldn't take no for an answer.
Clearly. Except for marriages a couple times, but even those, the couple slipped a couple no's in that one too.
Yeah.
But she was forced into, like you said, that, I mean, I think the reason that the story and these stories, number one, baseball in that time has like this poetic kind of history to it, but also just that time in American history, you're talking about the Great Depression, you're talking about some of the most struggle that, our citizens have ever been through, and just the individual stories of how you got through it are really, really intriguing. So you start combining them, and then you add in the fact of a 12-year-old girl going through all this, and then a young woman to deal with all of it. It's really fascinating, which, I'm going to throw it over to my partner, Ray, here, who has some questions on it. But the story is really compelling. You gave us all the history before we even got into the baseball part of it, and then they started playing baseball, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I have a question for you. So Josephine left her family farm in Pennsylvania at 12 years old, had 2 abusive marriages, divorced, and then started Little League pretty much. How hasn't Hollywood come knocking at your door or your husband's door and said, hey, we need to make a movie out of this?
We're asking the same question.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. This hearing the story, and I saw the video that your husband put out, that you were at, he's telling the story about his mother, and it's just like, how is this not going onto the big screen right now? How isn't Hollywood, this is like a perfect story, like a redemption story, a women power story right here. How is this not Hollywood like knocking at your door right now?
Okay, I'm enlisting you.
All right.
You've come to the right place. We have very close ties.
Yeah, you need a movie made. I'm your guy.
Well, we've had a few feelers.
Dirty Randy.
We've had a few feelers, but they weren't right, and
Yeah.
my feeling is that if somebody's not going to do it right, I have to have confidence.
Yeah.
And a couple of people have contacted, I have an agent and she's the one that handles this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And a couple of people have contacted her and basically her advice was, she says they're really small and I don't know that they can
put what you want, like what you guys envisioned like the movie to be about. Yeah.
Like Hardball.
Yeah.
Great Little League movie.
Who do you think would make a really great Mrs. Morhard?
Oh, I have this crazy idea, and you're gonna laugh. Melissa McCarthy.
I love it.
Ooh,
Wow.
I would have said Jennifer Aniston, but that's just me.
She's a good actress, in addition to being a comedian.
Yeah.
And she's got that kind of Spitfire attitude. I think she'd be great.
Would you want it more of a comedy or like a serious movie? Because if you're going Melissa
serious.
McCarthy, it has to be a comedy, right?
Yeah.
No, she would play a serious role. I mean, there's nothing comedy about what she went through in her life. So you need like a serious role out of her.
She can add some levity, and you got kids involved. Kids say stupid things, so.
Oh, of course.
One of the things that my agent said was, she says the movie studios these days don't like dealing with kids.
Child labor laws.
Maybe if she had a superhero cape,
No, of course, yeah.
Bill's a big fan of superhero movies. Again, he's our movie guy. He's probably the one that
Bill's the movie guy. Yeah. But every city, town now in the United States has like a little league or sports organization. Why isn't she getting the recognition that she deserves, Josephine, in this whole thing?
Way back when, she got tremendous recognition. I mean, she was written about. The Associated Press was writing stories about her. I've got newspaper clippings from all over the country about her. But the leagues ended. The war came along.
Oh.
you know,
That'll
she
steal
had
some
the-
headlines.
well, she had
Yeah.
2 leagues. She had a junior American league and a junior national league. And all of the teams, you know, they were named after major league teams. And the kids had authentic major league uniforms. Um, but as time went on, you know, the war came. Um, fathers were going into the war, mothers were going to work, gas was rationed, and you know, the kids couldn't get to the games. So reluctantly in 1944, oh, the other thing was that she was pretty much supporting the leagues by herself. I mean, she had been having fundraisers, and she had people like Bob Feller and, you know, a lot of the Indians players helping her out with the fundraisers, but they were off dying. Bob Feller was one of the first to enlist.
Mm.
So they couldn't, you know, they
Yeah.
couldn't help her out. And so she did disbanded in 1944. Now the Little League that we know of today was starting in Williamsport in 1939. And she actually got a call from the man who was starting the Little League. He wanted to see the film that the Indians made about her. And she sent him the film. She had a long conversation with him over the phone. And we can't say that, you know, we don't know that inspired him in any way, because we just don't have that information.
Well, we can hear because it's called Simple Mind Sports, so we can speculate all through the
He
roof.
stole the idea.
He
We're
stole the
yeah,
idea.
we're speculating right now. He stole it.
Oh, he stole it, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, they kind of had a little bit better model because they had businesses supporting the teams.
Right.
And, you know, here she was, well, you know, and think about, meat was being rationed. She was running a meat market. So, and she's trying to support the leagues, and she's trying to, you know, find customers who could still pay for meat. And because again, it was just the end of the Depression too. And the meat was being rationed, so there was only that much available. So it was, I mean, she was very reluctantly ended it. And you know, she wasn't looking for recognition. 30 years later, the boys had a reunion for her, and they wanted to get her recognition. And she says, "Oh no," she said, "that's not what I did it for." She said, "I just wanted these boys to grow up right." So she said, "Forget about it." And so I just decided to resurrect it.
Yeah.
Now, did the Cleveland Indians ever? I know obviously they supported her, got the boys' uniforms at a young age, you know, like starting out the league. But did they ever help her out? I mean,
Oh, they helped her out.
oh, did they?
Oh yeah, a lot.
That's great.
There's a man named Laddie Plasek was their head scout. He's the one who got the uniforms. He also had clinics for the kids, you know, teaching them how to hit and pitch and field and catch.
Oh, wow.
And Feller and let me see, Roy Weatherly and Jeff Heath, they would, you know, they would come by and they would help. They'd also stop by the Morhard house and play catch with the boys out in the backyard. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine playing catch in your backyard with Bob Feller?
They're jumping up in the social clicks, that's for sure. Did they help her out financially though, or was it all her supporting the league?
They'd help her with fundraisers. They provided
Okay.
balls. They provided a lot of things.
Great. That's all.
And
That's
they,
great.
you
That's
know,
great to hear.
They were always there if she needed something, but they didn't financially support her. I should tell you that Mel Harder, and he's a guy that, see, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame, because he was not only a good pitcher, but he was also the pitching coach for the teams, you know, for the teams that had Feller and Lemon and Early Wynn and Mike Garcia, and that went to the World Series. So
It's
but
funny not to cut you, the dichotomy of professional sports now and professional sports then, and just how much, you know, how localized and small and it was, and now, you know, obviously now it's big business and
it's big business,
such
right?
a big thing, yeah.
Right, but I was going to say, Mel Harder used to have the kids come over to his house, and he'd give them popcorn and soda and regale them with stories of the Indians. So I mean, these kids, I mean, imagine.
Yeah, what a time to be alive there.
Did you guys have any kids grew up playing Little League?
My son, yeah, I have 3 girls and a boy. So the girls weren't, you know, back when I had my kids, they weren't. The girls weren't in Little League. So yes, he played.
Are you a fan of baseball yourself?
No, I'm insane.
Who's your team?
No, I grew up in Connecticut, and Connecticut is like halfway between Boston and New York,
Yankees.
between the Boston teams and the New York teams, and everybody was fighting all the time. I was a Boston Red Sox fan. I was
There we
insane,
go.
Welcome.
insane Boston Red Sox fan. I read everything that I could get a hold of, and I actually, I read every baseball book I could read, and I actually had memorized all of the earned run averages and all of the batting averages of every team in Major League or everyone in Major League.
Bill, this is a female version of you right here.
Ruth, we have a show. We call our friend Bill Trashcan because of his general demeanor, but he has a lot of baseball specific knowledge stored up in his brain. It would be interesting to see you guys go head to head.
Oh yeah.
Well, hey, wait a minute. That was when I was a kid. I can't say
Okay.
do that now.
Well, Bill's 65, so
How would you draw more kids into the Little League? Because I feel like you see it around now. It's kind of like a dying thing here in this country right now.
I'm not sure. I think one of the things that Mrs. Morhard did was she we go to Little League games, and my husband, again, he was Junior, the bad boy. He goes to the games, and he played in high school. He was actually on the state championship team in high school, and he played in college, and he played Class A. And he goes to the Little League games, and it drives him crazy. He says nobody's teaching these kids how to play.
Yeah.
And there's coaches out there. Some of them are really good. Some of them really don't know much more than the kids themselves, and some of them are yelling at the kids. Oh, I mean, it was when kids are young, you can't treat them like they're adults. She was a mother to them. I mean, she really nurtured them. She wanted them to play the game right, and she wanted them to learn from the game. I mean, I think she had a great model. I think part of the reason Little League isn't doing as well is that baseball is not quite as popular as it used to be either.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
I think is a shame. But I think, I mean, if they really taught the kids how to play right and cared about the kids and really had some value added, it might pick up. Now I know a lot of the major league teams now are concerned about that, and they're doing a lot of things with the kids in their communities. I know the Indians are, and I assume the Red Sox are too. I don't know anything specifically about that.
Yeah, I think they're reaching out, and I was curious about that. As big of a baseball fan as you are, I don't know how much Major League Baseball you watch now, but it was my favorite sport growing up, and up until I don't know, somewhat recently, but it's become a different game from what I can remember, as in terms of a big league level and watching it on television, and all of the conversation revolving around the game and how it's too long and how it has to change and things. And I would imagine that has a big thing to do with kids not playing, and combine that with our world moving a million miles a second now. But I haven't seen baseball evolve with the times like other sports have, so, and I'm wondering if that's hurting it at the Little League level.
I don't know. To me, going to a baseball game, it's the experience. It's the entire experience that's so wonderful. I think on television, you lose that.
Yeah.
And today there's so much, there's so many games on TV. If you watch a football game, there's action, action, action. And, my husband says watching baseball on television is like watching grass grow, but
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Him and 70 other percent of America, I think, at this point.
Well, that's the problem with baseball too, is like they have, for seniors, their average age, that's their viewership. They need to speed it up. They need to make it more fun. You see in the minor league games, it's all like family driven, all for the kids. Right. Well, you get to the MLB, it's not, and it's like the things that you don't see, and it's just the age driven. The average baseball fan's like 55, that needs to come down, and changes need to be made. And until that happens, I don't see a lot of kids going. They want to play basketball. They want to play their footballs because they think you're going to get bigger stars doing that than you were in baseball. Mike Trout's the best baseball player in our generation, and he should be a bigger star than half these guys that you see in the media now, and you don't. And that's a problem with what you're going to see with baseball, and especially with kids. Kids want to see the millions of dollars the NBA gets, the LeBron Jameses, Kobe Bryants of the world. They don't care about the Mike Trouts of the world.
Yeah, well, that's, that's a shame. And I mean, it's also, you talk about baseball as a business too. I mean, of course, all sports teams are a business, but I mean, back when I was a kid, your players stayed with the teams, forever. Or almost forever, and it became a community kind of a thing where you really identified with the players. Now it's like, like the Indians just lost Lindor because they couldn't afford to pay for him.
I love Lindor.
What?
I love Lindor. I love him.
Yeah, now in New York.
You're right though. It's a whole discussion for a lot of things. I would be curious, as I'm sure you are, to have the conversation with your mother-in-law, but what, about her thoughts of the game. And was she a big baseball fan, or is this something that, she saw for her son as a release, and she invested just her time and energy into it? And, we'll let you go here after this, but I watched a lot of the movies and read a lot about, not a lot of talk about her as a coach on the field. Were these kids good? Was she the Joe Torre of her era? Was she a motivator, or X's and O's on the field kind of
okay,
coach?
First of all, she loved baseball.
Good.
She always loved baseball. But yeah, I mean, she managed the Little Indians with some help from people like Letty Plasek in terms of the professional end of things.
Sure.
She had managers of the other teams who did know baseball. The Little Yankees were managed by a guy named Lindquist, who had been a minor league player and had coached the adult some of the adult Sandlot teams.
Okay.
She had she paid professional umpires. She paid them $50 a game, which was no small sum back then.
Yeah.
And one of her umpires was a guy named Hal Leibowitz, and who is in the National Baseball Hall of Fame writers wing. He was a columnist for the Sporting News as well as the sports editor for the Plain Dealer. And he served, he'd be the umpire during the games, and after the games, he'd bring the kids aside and he would ask them what they felt they could do better, and they'd tell him, and he said they were usually right. But he acted as kind of a coach after the games as well.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it's a community-based. Yeah, I guess when you're in that infancy age, everyone is doing their best to make it work and grow and be competitive. So, well, look, we won't take up any more of your time. We appreciate this. Has been fun. It's always fun to talk baseball, and you certainly know your fair share, if not more. If you could tell us, just where we could find the books and where we where people can go to buy it.
The book is Mrs. Morhard and the Boys, and it's available at any of the online stores, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. We're steering a lot of people to bookshop.org because that supports the local bookstores.
Like that.
And if you can get to a bookstore in this COVID craziness, you can find it there or order it there. But it's pretty available.
Well, it's getting excellent reviews. Ray's into it a little bit. I can't wait to get into it. And we appreciate you having on. And yeah, I think that would be a blast, Bill. I think she'd smoke you, to be honest.
I think so too.
Baseball knowledge, I think she would absolutely smoke you.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, we're looking for your help in getting a movie made.
Well, that's right. True. Yeah, we're going to focus your energy on Hollywood, Bill. We're going to keep off baseball for now.
You got it, boys.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Enjoy your night. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot. This has been fun.
It was very fun. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If ever
just shut up for a second, you idiots. Bill, she definitely knows more baseball than you.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt it. dude. I would
Especially
not
as a
fucking doubt
kid, taking all the stats and ERAs and all that shit.
it. Oh
Like,
yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
As soon I had as soon as we started talking about Connecticut Yankees, I did read that she was a big Red Sox fan, so I wasn't gonna. But I was
but that
very happy to
Connecticut
see-
line, that Connecticut
Oh,
line.
no, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Connecticut
splits
is
right
no
in the
longer
middle.
New England. Everyone kind of
No.
knows that. That is
Yeah.
fully
It's
New
New
York.
York.
Yeah.
It's New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
All those guys travel into the city, and that's what they do. It's that's
Yeah,
nuts.
a lot of Giants fans down there. You know, Patriots
Oh,
were terrible,
yeah.
Giants were good. You know, that's how we used to get tickets from Greg. His
was gonna say,
father-in-law
Greg.
was a Greg's Giants fan, couldn't get tickets, bought Patriots tickets, and then ended up getting Giants tickets. So
Yeah, but clearly
be
now
nice.
a Cleveland fan and a baseball fan through and through, and certainly a storyteller. You can
talk.
talk it with the best of them.
The dirty Randy comment.
Oh, I almost lost it.
It was
He snuck it in.
it was very silent. When I heard it, I'm like,
I heard it too. I was
Okay,
like,
you
oh,
need a
he's
movie.
got-
I can make a movie. Okay, Dirty Randy.
Dirty Randy and the boys.
I'm like trying not to look at any of you. I'm looking at her, but I can see you guys like trying to like look around. I'm like, oh fuck.
When we started this band, our needed was a laugh. Years gone by, I say we've kicked some ass. When I make rage, you hear the stage, trillion runs through my veins, and I say we're still kicking ass. Kicks down my heart, hope it never stops, and I think we did all of this too much. Kicks down my heart, give it a start. Kicks down my heart, hope it never stops. Kicks down my heart, hope it never stops. Kicks down my heart, give it a start. Okay, boys, let's rock the house.
Hello, babies.